Hi guys, this is our airline pricing strategies presentation. I'm Patty.
I'm Lucy.
I'm Kelsey.
And I'm Catherine. So our group has decided to focus on airline pricing strategies. So it is an era of frequent flyers with a lot of airlines competing with each other. So there are many considerations that airlines are accountable for when they're formulating the final price of an airfare ticket. And those factors include the exchange process, taxation, seasonality, and welfare.
I'm going to talk about the aspects of exchange. Well, first of all, we identify the market. The airline industry is an oligopoly. An oligopoly exists when a market is controlled by a small group of firms, often because the barrier to entry is significant enough to discourage potential competitors from entering it. This is evident in the airline industry, as there are the main companies being Emirates, Singapore Airlines, Qantas, Qatar, Virgin, Air France, and American Airlines, etc., etc. The second thing we do is we identify the market agents. The airliner companies can be seen as economic agents because they have the ability to have an effect on the economies of other countries. This is because for a majority of countries, tourism plays a key factor in making sure that governments are at a surplus rather than a deficit. Australia, for instance, receives $40.6 billion annually from tourism. This significant figure was hit in 2016. And the third thing that we do in aspects of exchange is identifying how prices are formed. In the airliner industry, the prices are originally based off supply and demand, and how much people are willing to spend on a ticket to fly with an airliner they choose to use. If the relative demand for a product increases, then the consumer will be willing to spend more to get that ticket. The price will then be formed by the price leaders, and the other organizations in the industry will follow based on whether or not they can match their services to the price leader.
So taxation. So just like many goods and services, the price of an airfare ticket comprises of many multiple surcharges. This includes government levies, airport fees, and airline fuel taxes, all of which can account for more than half the cost of a one-way ticket. So many governments decide to impose a tax on air transport just because it can raise revenue really easily. In July 1995, the Australian federal government introduced a passenger movement charge. So this was a $60 cost for any international departure per person and has already been incorporated to the ticket price. So overall, it increases it. Another international example would be the Norwegian government departure tax known as the Green Levy. So the purpose of this tax was to raise awareness for the country's environment so that it could help improve it. However, government levies aren't the only charges that make up airfare prices. Another large component is fuel surcharge that is taxed by the airline. So all major airlines such as Qantas increase its fuel fee and once again adds to the ticketing price. Domestic fares are set to increase by 3.5%, while international fares will increase by 3%. And this particular tax is imposed to compensate for the increase in oil prices, and it allows the airline to remain competitive.
Seasonality refers to a characteristic of a time series in which the data experiences regular and predictable changes that reoccur every calendar year. Seasonality is taken into account when airlines price their tickets due to particular time periods having higher demand than others. For example, during the summer seasons, the demand to fly is greater, meaning the price will be higher. When demand increases for flights, the demand curve will shift to the right. This will then result in an increase in supply, an increase in price, and an increase in quantity. This will then mean airline tickets will be more expensive. However, in the seasons where the demand to fly is low, the demand curve shifts to the left. This will then result in a decrease in supply, a decrease in price, and in the quantity. These times the price of airline tickets will be cheaper.
Alright, so in terms of welfare applications in the 19th century, much of it was just economic science. That's all economists were concerned about, was the science of it, all the money and everything. However, we have moved into more of a social welfare side, which most economists thought were unimportant, but is found to be very important in the whole world of economics as we moved into a more social revolution. So in terms of social welfare, it is imperative that the efficiency and the equity are being utilised, and in terms of airline pricing, that isn't always the case. So efficiency is where the producer is making the good and it's using the best of its scarce resources. So obviously in airlines, the oil, like the fuel for airlines, is very scarce. So that's why it's an oligopoly, because not many people have access to it. That's how it's formed. That's why we pay so much for airline fares, because it's a scarce resource. So, however, equity is being able to divide the scarce resource among all members of society. Obviously, this isn't the case in terms of welfare. There are people in society that can't afford airline pricing. So that is definitely where airline pricing strays from welfare. However, they do offer lower value for different things, and then higher value, so first class tickets and whatnot, get different services. So Patty, if you want to move to the next slide for me, thank you. And then in terms of public policy, as I was saying before, this is where you can't, governments will intervene if airlines jump their price for no reason. This is where they go behind governments really and offer the different services. So as said before, first class with spaciousness, they're charging more for that particular service. They're charging more for food, but they're charging more for that, rather than people who are on the economic side of things and they're just in those cramped seats with no technology and whatnot. So that is where public policy is implemented.
Thank you.
So that's it for our airline pricing strategies component of prices and markets.